What is going on, YouTube? It is Matthew Fraase, part of FCS Fans Nation, coming to you with a special episode from the FCS Fans Nation podcast and the FCS Fans Nation Network about North Dakota State football and all this realignment chaos as teams are jumping up to the FBS, getting shifted around. Thank you, Texas and Oklahoma. And today, guys, I want to discuss with you why hasn't one of the most successful college football programs at the Division II and now FCS level received that invite and has not yet joined the FBS level? That is North Dakota State, the Bison from Fargo. And let's dive into that today, guys. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe button, share this with all your friends so everybody knows why this storied program at this moment is not FBS. So the question that just won't go away, guys, is why are the North Dakota State Bison still an FCS school with all the success this program has had at not only the Division II level, but the FCS level? And in case you've been living underneath a rock a little bit, let's talk a little bit about that storied history that North Dakota State has. First things first, North Dakota State currently is at the FCS level. It used to be considered Division I AA. Now it's the football championship subdivision, right beneath that FBS G5, if you will. But fun fact about North Dakota State, literally in the last 57 years, North Dakota State has 3 losing seasons. That's pretty impressive. They also currently have the most college football championships at the Division II level, which they have not been a part of since 2003. They have 16 championships total, combined with that Division II and now FCS. They moved up to the FCS level in 2004, had some transitional years, and have had just a decade plus of dominance since then, and it's continuing now into 2021. Since that jump up since 2004, NDSU has 8 national titles, 8 national championships that they put on their shelves there, and NDSU football has just dominated the FCS level. Not only have they dominated on the field, they have put plenty of players into the NFL. Lots of players from North Dakota State football are currently contributing to NFL rosters. Of course, you know some of the big names. Carson Wentz currently with the Colts, and Trey Lance, the rookie with the 49ers. NDSU football has also had College Game Day twice. That's right, they've hosted twice in Fargo. And actually, they were the visiting team when College Game Day went to South Dakota State. So pretty cool to 3 times have an appearance on College Game Day, twice as the main show, once as the visiting team. Pretty impressive for an FCS school, not even up at the FBS level. Some additional cool things, NDSU football has literally only lost 11 games since 2011. They had a 39-game win streak from 2017 to 2021. 39-game win streak, which is just insanity. And don't just think they're dominating at the FCS level. NDSU has crushed their competition when it comes to FBS opponents. Okay, some of the games were close, so it's not truly crushed. But they've beaten the likes of Minnesota twice. They've beaten Iowa State. They beat Iowa when they were ranked number 13. They beat Kansas State. They beat teams like Colorado State. And a fun fact, they actually beat Central Michigan in 2007, 44-17. Why does that matter? Because Central Michigan won the MAC in 2007. So were they MAC champions that year? People in Fargo might claim it. The talent on the field, guys, is undisputed for North Dakota State. It's a rich history going decades back of winning and a standard program. And they're currently ranked number 2 again in the FCS rankings right now at the time of this recording. But why is North Dakota State still at the FCS level then, when some of the partners that they used to compete against, the Georgia Southerns, the Coastal Carolinas, the James Madisons, who just now received an invite to the Sun Belt and are likely confirmed to be there by the time you guys are watching this, why are they all moving up and NDSU football continues to stay at the FCS level? We're going to dive into that today with some logistics, some reasoning, some facts, and maybe a little bit of opinion. Okay, before we dive into the big things, I am not an FBS realignment expert. I'm sure in the comment section below, the comments on Twitter and everywhere else, you're going to blow me up a little bit because you don't know what you're talking about. And that's fine. I probably don't have all the perfect information about FBS realignment, but I do have a lot of good intel on North Dakota State specifically. I'm going to use 2 main sources here. One of my main sources is an excellent article written by Keith Brake. It's about North Dakota State and their options if they were move up to the FBS level. My second source is going to be NDSU to FBS. I'm not sure who runs the website, but it appears to be some sort of fan page, but it does show some good graphs and some comparisons to how NDSU could fit into some of the G5 conferences. My third source is just some of the facts that I've looked up and some of the things that I believe could be successful for NDSU at the next level and some things that could be a detriment to them. Okay, first things first, guys. Why would an FCS school be considered for moving up into the G5 right now? Well, of course, all the chaos that Texas and Oklahoma started has caused massive shifts of realignment. So we're going to look into what is popular and what is needed right now. Some of the real basics right here. Mostly financial gain is why an FCS school is going to go up. They're going to be gaining more money, more revenue, more expansion, and that's important for them. For the FBS conference that actually wants an FCS school, it's less about talent on the field, as you can see from some of the schools that get invites to power conferences or other conferences. And it, of course, is about money. It's about television markets. It's about eyeballs on TV sets. But there are also other considerations to think about too. Travel hubs, location, geographical rivalries, things that will keep your fans passionate so there's more engagement and more money brought in, and you can increase that conference's popularity and allow more eyeballs to be focused on what your product is. So let's be honest, it may be a little bit less about the success on the field, and it may be more about the financials, which of course is important. So what we know is things are more about the bottom line and money and revenue that you can gain, especially with college football, in comparison to maybe the talent that is on the field. And those are considerations that conferences are going to take when they look at FCS schools trying to get into the FBS. It's not about championships and production. While that does help you, it really is a lot about location, television markets, eyeballs on TV sets. So the talent with NDSU is undisputed. I already covered some of the historical context in terms of championships and college game day appearances and popularity and kind of a cool little national brand. They recruit really well too in the upper Midwest. NDSU has really expanded into Florida and Georgia. They've brought in some really high quality players in those areas. They've always done really well out of Kansas, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. So the recruiting game is good. There's a rich history within the program. So the talent and the things that are cool for fans and what people really look into, undisputed for NDSU. But let's look at some reasons why the FBS is maybe a logistical and fiscal nightmare for not only the conference, but for North Dakota State to make that jump. One of the biggest reasons why NDSU is not currently FBS or being pursued for it, and it's a big one, is location. For you guys who don't know, North Dakota State is located in Fargo, North Dakota. First things first, it's kind of a small airport. It's a lot spendier to fly into than other airports that you would find like Minneapolis. Obviously, location and population matter when you're looking at a team jumping into an FBS conference and what they can bring for monetary value. Fargo has about 121,000 people in it. Now, there's a few surrounding communities like Moorhead and West Fargo next to it, but Fargo itself, it's about 121,000 people. Not a lot when you're looking at some places like UTEP and others who have millions all around them. And the state itself of North Dakota total is just over 750,000. So it's not like you're looking at a massive populated area, which is something where an FBS conference may get nervous about how many people are going to engage and watch North Dakota State football to put more money in our pockets. So it's not the most attractive TV market right now, and it doesn't seem to be trending upward aggressively like a Frisco, Texas, or a Boise, Idaho. So location really hurts NDSU, and something that goes along with location is, of course, G5 schools that are around you to make travel and passionate fan rivalries and things like that really relevant. And if you think about it, the nearest schools for North Dakota State that are at the FBS level are Big 10 and Big 12 schools. And let's be honest, the NDSU Bison are not getting into the Big 10 or 12 in my lifetime, if ever. Okay, just throw that under the rug. Some Bison fans say we're going to wait for that invite. That's not going to happen. So it's G5 or FCS. Your closest travel options for NDSU are going to be the Mountain West and the MAC. And even those aren't short trips, guys. And so it's not a huge TV market location. It doesn't have regional partners for travel. And, that's a big thing for FBS conferences to consider in terms of North Dakota State. It may not be attractive for the Bison at a location standpoint to end up in a G5 conference. Here's a big one besides television markets and location and airport hubs. How about the fact that North Dakota State has never received an invite? That's right. Never, not once has North Dakota State received an invite from an FBS conference. In fact, Matt Larson, the athletic director, just confirmed a few weeks ago, the Mountain West didn't even reach out to North Dakota State when they were considering expansion and were considering fallback plans in case they got poached through this realignment thing. Despite what you see on Twitter and other things, that's from an actual source. So North Dakota State, a huge reason they haven't jumped up is the lack of an invite. This is different from the App States of the world, the Georgia Southern, Coastal Carolina. James Madison now with its second invite to the Sun Belt, they're finally making the jump. North Dakota State, fans go, why aren't you jumping? Why aren't they going up? Why isn't NDSU moving? You literally cannot go to the party unless you have an invite, guys. And North Dakota State has never had an invite. Yes, there are schools that go independent like Liberty, but as I'm showing you on the screen right now, look at the endowment of Liberty and look at the endowment of North Dakota State. There is a lot of money that Liberty puts into other things. You're talking billions of dollars in comparison to a couple $100 million. Okay, we've already looked at some of the impacts and some of the reasons why North Dakota State would not move up to the FBS level, but let's dig into it a little bit deeper. We're going to use Keith Brake's article, which was written from 24/7 Sports, about NDSU moving up to the FBS level and what would their options be. Even with the time frame being different, you can see how the negatives in terms of logistics and finances still could apply to North Dakota State football. So I've got some dated information here, but you should be able to kind of shift it over into different numbers for whatever the new TV contracts look after all this conference realignment stuff. So most of the time you hear North Dakota State fans talk about if they're going to the FBS, it has to be a football only invite. While that doesn't seem super attractive maybe for NDSU or even conferences, it's one of the most realistic things for North Dakota State is because currently all their other Olympic sports compete in the Summit League, and those are bus trips and short trips, maybe a few flights. But for the most part, they save a lot of money on travel by keeping everything in the Summit League. And for North Dakota State to have to take all sports, maybe add a few sports at the FBS level and travel all of them into MAC or Mountain West country, it's virtually impossible and not going to happen. But this take is from a football-only invite standpoint, which of course itself is a dilemma because what conference wants a football-only invite from an FCS school? Probably not many. So first off, in Keith Brake's article, he mentions, let's just pretend that we have a necessary budget increase with North Dakota State up to $10 million in spending, which currently is not the case. Right now, NDSU's football budget, according to this July 2019 article, is that in fiscal year 2018, it was about $4.8 million. So any sort of new conference affiliation is going to have some revenue baked into it from NDSU to get close to that benchmark. So Mr. Brake talks about a combination of college football TV revenue, conference revenue, things like that, to get NDSU up to that number to where they would need to be operational. So right off the bat, we're up against the wall with finances and needing to increase our bottom line and our spending with North Dakota State. And Keith does a really good job of explaining that if you're a football-only invite, it's not like the conference is going to give you the full share of the revenue, right? If you're not able to help that TV market and that TV deal that the conference has for basketball and other sports, they're not going to give you a full share unless your football program is beyond elite and just a benchmark and a standard amongst FBS football, which North Dakota State is not. So up into the 2020 contract period for North Dakota State's current television deal, which has to do with North Dakota Broadcasting, it was owned by NBC and now it's owned by the Forum here locally. The revenue based off of that is around $473,000 per season. So just remember that $473,000 per season for North Dakota State is currently what they're bringing in, roughly around that for a television number. Now remember that these numbers and these contracts were back in 2019 when Alignment hadn't started, but remember this is baseline stuff just to kind of wrap your head around. First, let's look at Conference USA, which right now is down to basically 5 teams, and they're looking at Sam Houston's and Liberty's, heck, UConn football only. So let's look at Conference USA. Their current contract deal pays out about $400,000 per school, and that's the current contract deal. So $400,000 from the Conference USA, and that's for teams that are putting all their sports into it. So North Dakota State makes about $473K on their own right now. Are they going to jump into a conference that might not even pay them that to travel more, football only? Possibly, but that's probably not an attractive thing for Conference USA. It's probably not attractive for NDSU. The conference that I say is most comparable for NDSU is the MAC. I'm going to show some numbers at the end of this podcast, but you will see that the MAC stadium sizes, the endowments are pretty comparable to North Dakota State. And looking at the MAC, a full football-only membership would bring in about $415,000 a year. So that's not so bad. A full expansion of NDSU for all sports, that climbs to about $830K. So that's a pretty good boom for basketball and other sports for North Dakota State. Some of the issues that may arise, though, for going to the MAC for NDSU would be those Tuesday games, those Wednesday night games from action, because NDSU makes a lot of money off their ticket revenue. So for the MAC, honestly, not too bad when you're looking at the numbers in terms of jumping up. But of course, you have to increase spending and travel costs and things like that. So it would be interesting. But the MAC is honestly the best one The thing with the MAC is it's kind of tough to say North Dakota State would fit in perfectly because they're at the geographical center of North America in Fargo. If you were located where Youngstown State is, yeah, you'd be a perfect fit right now. There would be a little bit of pushback with the MAC, but honestly, it's the best comparison for North Dakota State. The one conference North Dakota State fans are really excited about is the Mountain West, and unfortunately, the Mountain West is not expanding right now, and North Dakota State football currently has received no communication via Matt Larson from the Mountain West with them showing any interest. Going off of Keith Brake's article here, the Mountain West is really good for television contracts with a baseline of $1.1 million per year, except for Boise, who actually gets a little bit more. There are bonuses baked in and things like that. So the money paid out from the Mountain West would be very lucrative to NDSU. However, one of the things that you're going to come up against with that is travel and location, with NDSU going all the way to sometimes San Diego and Las Vegas. Those are hubs that they're able to travel to easily. But the Mountain West at this time doesn't look like a realistic scenario because the Mountain West is not sending an invite, nor are they showing any interest in North Dakota State. On a fiscal sense, if it was football only, it does appear that the Mountain West would be a possibility for North Dakota State to pull off. Okay, guys, I've talked a lot about the negatives, mostly about North Dakota State and going to the FBS. Of course, the positives are talent on the field, great recruiting, a passionate fan base. I mean, the tailgating is awesome, by the way, if you're ever up here in Fargo for a game. Let's look at NDSU to FBS.com. Appears to be a fan-built website that kind of shows some of the numbers from, again, that 2018 to 2019 timeframe, how NDSU could compete and why they would be a good team to actually join a conference, whether it's the MAC or the Mountain West or others. So the 5 reasons they state are strong financials, a national brand, their competitive facilities, and geography. So let's look a little bit what they have on their website. Looks like here we have 2018 football revenue, and as you can see, they're maybe on the lower end of the Mountain West side, but they are comparable. It's not like NDSU is completely blown off the map here. So in terms of that Conference Bowl revenue and guarantees, once again, Keith Brake kind of mentioned that too as well with contract money and stuff. NDSU would bring in some good finances for the Mountain West. It's not like they are completely irrelevant in that arena. Ticket sales from 2018, the NDSU fans and the Fargo Dome has been sold out years and years and years, like a decade plus now. Right now, you can see on the screen, it's a 2018 football ticket sales, and NDSU is actually pretty close up there in terms of teams and attendance. So that's a really attractive thing if you're looking at them in terms of on-the-field stuff and fans showing up. Once again, NDSU's positives are all related to that football field and the atmosphere. National television exposure, which is really great. There are times when NDSU is put on TV for big games like semifinals, quarterfinals with the FCS playoffs, and the title games, and as you can see, the numbers are pretty big. While they are pretty impressive, they still don't come close to some of the bowl games for lower tier G5 schools. However, if NDSU is a good brand and they're a team people are actually interested in looking into, the argument could be made that with that bowl game promotion in comparison to the FCS playoffs, NDSU would receive higher viewership numbers, which of course helps the conference make that money. The website goes on to mention a few things like the Massey ratings and strength of schedule and how NDSU has been high ranked up, even comparison to those G5 schools. But average attendance is a really big one that you see here. NDSU's attendance, while they do exist in the Fargo Dome, is very high as they are selling out crowds almost continuously. So those are some pretty great positives to North Dakota State and them getting an opportunity to maybe go FBS. But once again, the numbers have to match for not only the conference, but North Dakota State. There's a lot of logistical and fiscal nightmares here, guys. A lot of things people have to overcome. And it's not like there's a perfect scenario with like a James Madison who just found regional partners in a really good travel hub with a competitive conference in the Sun Belt. One of the arguments, guys, I have to bring up and I have to counter that I hear all the time is North Dakota State does not play in a big enough stadium to be FBS. North Dakota State plays in the Fargo Dome. It is actually owned by the city of Fargo, and that was started in 1991. North Dakota State has played there ever since. It is a great home field advantage. It's been mentioned in tons of articles about its noise and its impact on the games. It holds about 18,700 people right now. But since 2011, they've rumored that there might be an expansion by moving press box seats to the opposite side of the stadium to expand anywhere from 5,000 to 7,500 more seats. So at a max, you're looking at a Fargo Dome that could hold about, let's just say 25,000 people, and that's pretty small in comparison to the FBS landscape. However, the idea that they would need a new stadium is completely false. Per the NCAA bylaws, you need an average of at least 15,000 people over a rolling 2-year period, and that's something that NDSU hits easily over the last decade. Now, of course, a new stadium looks good and progress looks good. If you are planning to expand your stadium and bring it up to 40,000, which NDSU is not, that is going to be more attractive for an FBS conference. So once again, while it's not a mandate, it would be more attractive for NDSU to expand, which at this time, there is no chance that they are going to be building a new stadium. What they have with the Fargo Dome in the city of Fargo is really good for the school. NDSU, however, has put some really good money and investment into their other facilities, their weight rooms. They just built a brand new basketball arena. And with privately donated money up to $30 million, they just dug ground on a brand new world-class indoor football facility for practice. So a practice indoor football field, which is pretty cool. So North Dakota State is investing in its current facilities, and they're going to continue to do so. But people really like to stomp that Fargo Dome being rented from the city of Fargo instead of its own separate stadium. But it does have facilities that would be comparable to a lot of FBS schools, especially amongst the G5. Guys, if you just look at over a period, once again, a little bit dated, but if you look at NDSU from their endowment and their average attendance, Mountain West, they kind of fit within there pretty good. They're kind of in that halfway point. But if you look at them in comparison to the MAC, they actually are a very attractive school in terms of a perfect fit. In terms of endowments, Buffalo, whoa, you got a lot of money. But for North Dakota State, they're pretty close to everybody else. And for average football attendance, they fit as well, too. So the MAC might be the best place for North Dakota State. Is the MAC interested? Likely not at this time. So pros to NDSU is an FBS school. It's a well-known brand. It's quality football. It has passionate fans with a good recruiting base, and it puts a lot of players into the NFL. And it's really good. You see it on ESPN commercials. You've seen them on College Game Day. The cons are made the really strong things of what drives conference realignment and why an FCS school gets an invite, which is conferences care about money. They care about the bottom line. They care about their television market. They care about how many people. They care about airport hubs. They care about travel. They care about continuity. So a lot of those things with North Dakota State's location really give it a disadvantage. But if you put North Dakota State where Youngstown is, sure, they're in the MAC. If you put North Dakota State where maybe Montana State is, yeah, sure, the Mountain West is probably a lot more interested. But at this time, it doesn't really look good for North Dakota State to receive an invite. And I would say the majority of the reasons are making those finances work combined with the fact that geographically it's tough for them being a small travel hub. Once again, guys, I may not know all the facts here, and I'm sure I'm going to get countered a lot within the comments and all over social media, which is completely fine. It's important to have the facts right. I just like being informed just as much as everybody else. I haven't seen a lot of videos here talking about North Dakota State with some really good in-depth information. So hopefully this stuff, even though it was a little bit dated, gives you guys some rationale and some thoughts when you're actually making this argument for NDSU going up or staying back at the FCS level. But what realistically in my mind is NDSU's options? What would I like to see done? I think they really only have two options, and that's going to be a football-only invite to the Mountain West or the MAC. And the other option would be some sort of move up with regional partners. Now, that regional partner move up isn't based off of any sources, and it's a complete hypothetical that I've seen a few times on Twitter, where like the CUSA or the WAC or somebody completely rebrands and brings in a northern hemisphere of teams like South Dakota State and North Dakota State, UND, Montana, and they all kind of go up together, which is really unrealistic. The other thing would be that football-only invite to the Mountain West, which currently isn't happening, or a football-only invite to the MAC, or maybe all sports if you can make the finances work in the MAC. Me personally, guys, I would love to see NDSU move up, right? Because I think progress is natural. Like Coastal Carolina, your App States, they joined a Sunbelt that everybody was like, oh, gross, Sunbelt football. But guess what? Over time, it grew into something great. And Boise State wasn't kind of on the hunt for a Big 12 invite right away. You need a stepping stone. You need to get your foot in the door. With NDSU, a foot in the door is going to be essential. But it's not realistic if you can't make the finances and an invite actually happen. So it'll be interesting to see if you had to push me and be like, Matt, tell us right now, what would you want? I'd love to be in the MAC. I wouldn't mind MACtion. I'd love to go to bowl games. I'm going to support NDSU no matter what. So MAC football, I think would be great. Mountain West, kind of a dream scenario. So there you go. All right, guys. Hope you guys learned something here about North Dakota State football and why they are not currently FBS and what may be on the outlook for them. As we are currently in the midst of conference realignment. And right now, CUSA, I think the last thing I saw was tweets about them adding Liberty and UMass. They're looking at Sam Houston, an FCS school. So maybe this is the bottom of the barrel to where the CUSA is NDSU's last hope. And I don't even know if NDSU would be remotely interested in a conference that is not showing a lot of promise right now. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this special episode of the FCS Fans Nation Network. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe button. If you love FCS football, if you want to have more information about realignment and some of the schools that may be involved in the G5 moving forward, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. As always, guys, stay positive. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Boom. Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred listening platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, or even YouTube. And make sure to follow our FCS Fans Nation social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football. Boom.